I do have a
I don't
question,
want to say
sorry,
old ones,
because
but
I came in late
experienced.
in the middle of all of this. If it's held over that long with this process already in place and the bid already in play like this, is that going to be a problem legally for us to hold it this long, or does it matter one way or the other?
How long is a bid good for?
Council can hold it long as they won't hold it.
Well, I understand that, but, yeah.
The contract is awarded. You know, this is a contract for professional services, so under state law, generally, it's not required to be bid.
Right,
It is
okay.
being bid so that it is eligible for FEMA reimbursement. The process the city followed is the federal procurement process, and that resulted in the award to Tetra Tech, which is on the council agenda. Under the RFP, the bidders have an opportunity to appeal the award of the bid to the city attorney. That the Thompson Consulting Services, filed an appeal, and that appeal is pending before the city attorney. So that appeal has not yet been resolved. Tetra Tech, of course, had no reason to appeal because they were awarded the bid. So if the bid changes, if it is not awarded as according to the RFP, then I believe Tetra Tech would have an opportunity to appeal. Yes.
But as far as, since the council has to approve the contract, even if it takes us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever, to approve, there is nothing legally wrong with that, because we are the last ones anyway. We approve the contract, even if it takes us 2 months to approve a contract. So the current company doing the work will continue until we approve a different contract, or what?
As I interpret the contract, it is a 3-year contract that commenced August 21st of 2018. If the council were to desire for Thompson Consulting to remain in place until November, that would also require an amendment to the contract, which I can discuss with Mr. Arledge.
So there's nothing that they would just continue until we approve a different contract. You're saying that there would be a gap period.
Correct. It's a 3-year contract that commenced on August 21st of 2018, and I understand that there's a contrary theory, but
Difference of opinion?
that's right. But as I interpret the contract, it's a prepositioning contract that commences on award of the contract. The contract could be continued. I'm just saying that if Councilman Williams were to make the motion he just proposed, it should include authority to extend to amend the contract to extend the term.
I have a question too.
Yeah, going to be Mr. Richardson, Ms. Rich, and back to Mr. Williams.
Councilman Williams asked for information regarding the contract that he did not receive. That's not what before us. Before us is whether or not we can lay this matter over until the 9th of November. So okay. What's before us is whether or not the council can lay this matter over until November 9th. That's what before us. So I want to consult with my own attorney. Based on your understanding, would we be violating any law to lay this over until November 9th? That's the issue.
I don't know of any law that'd be violated, but I would go with Flo's suggestion that if you're going to lay it over, extend the Thompson one to that same time period. That way you're not left, bare, depending on, whose theory winds up being right or wrong in the end.
You got that, John?
I hear both of their opinions.
Okay.
And I have a question too.
What, you finished, Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you. Okay, this is getting more clear as I'm listening to you. Thompson Engineering contract, that's basically up right now because it was through August of this year, correct? All right, hence the new program being offered to the council. But if we vote today, we would basically, if we just table it without saying that we're extending to keep in a vulnerable time of year, you know, having someone who would work with FEMA and work with the city, okay, that's good. I think we understand that. The other thing is, if there is an appeal, would it be wiser for the council to kind of let this rest and just extend what's in place by virtue of our going with the new one when there is an appeal? Is there anything that would muddy the waters up at this point because of the appeal?
The contract is a little unusual because it's a pre-positioning contract, which means that immediately upon award of the contract, the contractor doesn't necessarily have to do anything.
Right, because there's no
you know.
storm.
So that makes the situation a little unusual. Yes, I think that if the appeal were successful after the award to Tetra Tech, then subsequent adjustments would have to be made. Yes, the appeal to Tetra Tech would have to be set aside, and a new award would have to be made, and that is a complication.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams, then Ms. Gregory.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, one answer did come from Director DeLapp, and that was that there was a continuation in place, that they had to put a continuation in place while they got the contract. So there is some difference in opinion, I agree. And I don't know that we ever write a contract that leaves us in a gap. If we do, we probably in the future want to put a clause in that says that until another contract is in place, this will continue. Generally speaking, we put some kind of language in there. Isn't that a true statement?
That is, for a lot of contracts, there is a provision that the contract continues month to month. Perhaps that's more common in a lease situation, or on appointments of people to serve on boards. They often serve until a replacement can be put in place. But I think the way this contract addresses that issue is a little bit different. It has a 30-day termination clause where if the council were to award the contract to Tetra Tech, the contract itself allows termination just on 30 days notice. So with this being a pre-positioning contract, that is another option, that it can be just awarded to Tetra Tech, and then should the protest be successful, then the Tetra Tech contract could be canceled.
Thanks a lot.
Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, my question was along those same lines because I was wondering what would happen then with the contract with Tetra Tech, because it's for a specific time period. So even laying it over or waiting until the November 9th timeline would change that contract as well.
That contract would be in effect for 3 years following the date it was awarded, but
So it's,
except for if it was, there is that option of awarding it today and then canceling it in the event that the appeal is successful.
yeah, but you don't want to award one and then take it away from them and back and forth sort of a thing. But if we lay this over till the 9th and then Tetra Tech is still approved as the contractor after November 9th, would they just then start their 3 years from then
Yes.
forward? Is that the way the contract would work?
Yes.
And does the contract have to be redone at that point to make the dates line up?
It doesn't, because the language in the contract is
Just says
3
3
years
years.
from the notice
Approval.
to proceed. The notice to proceed being notice of award of contract.
So we could just continue on as we are with Thompson, I guess, on a
Do we have
month-to-month basis until we, no? Okay.
No, theirs is over. You see, that's just it. correct?
Oh, okay,
I
that's
think
why
it
you
would
were
be-
saying we would
we
have
would
to amend
be-
it to a month until,
Or you could amend it to a day, or you could just authorize the mayor to execute an extension to extend the period of
If
time.
it wasn't hurricane season, we wouldn't have to.
yeah.
Ms. Williams?
You used some different language there, notice to proceed, and then you said it's exactly the same as the notice of the award. Is that the case? Because usually notice to proceed is after all the things and conditions have been met, they're looked at, or somebody is looked at and said, you know, go off and do that. And sometimes that's long after the contract has been awarded. So I'm curious, Chris, did you read this contract? And did you read the old one?
I haven't seen the old one.
Okay.
So the notice to proceed is what the city usually issues when the contract is, when all the contracting actions have been completed, all the bonds are in place, all the insurance is in place, you know, all pending issues are resolved.
That's right.
And the city is ready for the contractor to begin work. But generally, the notice to proceed occurs very close to the award of contract.
Yeah. And council, y'all understand? Y'all just hear that? Okay.
If I, in this particular, with this particular contract, it's a pre-positioning contract. So the RFP states that the services begin upon award of contract, and then it's perfectly possible, if everybody's very fortunate, there's no disaster during that 3 years, and then there's no subsequent engagement of the contractor. It's a make-ready contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you. My interest, Ms. Kessler, is I want to make sure that, okay, we put an RFP out. We got at least 2 respondents to that. One of them, Thompson, has filed a protest, correct? I'm correct so far, right? Okay. So my interest is in making sure that Thompson was treated fairly in this, and I'm reluctant to change the current arrangement until that issue is resolved. At the same time, I want to make sure that we don't go through, you know, the next 2 or 3 months naked without any coverage in case we do get another storm. And I'm getting slightly different answers to the question of whether we'll be naked or not from everyone I talk to. But the general consensus is that if we do not act on this contract today, and if we wait, as Mr. Williams has suggested, until November 7th, that we will not be naked.
My recommendation is that if the council does not want to award the contract to Tetra Tech today, the council can vote that Tetra Tech contract up or down, that it should simultaneously authorize the mayor to, by mutual agreement with Thompson Consulting, extend their contract through November. Then it will be absolutely crystal clear that the city has consulting coverage. I understand that there have been conflicting opinions about what would happen because under one interpretation of the Thompson Consulting contract, it expired August 21st. And I think that, you know, what I'm hearing is what the council really doesn't want is to be without a consulting contract during the remainder of hurricane season.
Yeah, and I guess I just asked if Mr. Williams, when he makes his motion at the city council meeting to wait until November 7th, if you could add to your motion the language that Ms. Kessler has suggested about authorizing the mayor to extend it, the current contract. Yeah.
I hear you. We'll talk after.
I have a question though, just in listening.
Decides not to.
Do we have to vote a yes or no on the new contractor, or do we just table that with the date uncertain at this point?
Or lay it over,
We could lay it
because I don't know that we want
But-
to necessarily table it.
Mr. Aldridge?
Well, if you tabled it, that would be like voting no, basically, but
Yeah, well, but
Um,
it's not an affirmative.
eventually, those are gonna be the only options, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other council members?
01712, authorize agreement with Gaillard Builders for Church Street Cemetery west wall repairs. 01713, authorize agreement with Will Amanor to provide tennis lessons and clinics for the Parks and Recreation Department. 08714, approve item-based bid for graphics for Mobile Police Department vehicles. 08715, approve purchase order to Med Eng LLC for EOD bomb suit and accessories for police administrative services. 08716, approve purchase order to Wilson Dismukes for 50 trimmers for the motor pool. 09717, transfer $30,000 from MIT's operating account to their capital account for carpet replacement. 21718, authorized contract with Bill Smith Electric for emergency generator and service modifications at Fire Station Number 16. 21719, authorized contract with Bill Smith Electric for LED lighting upgrade at Mims Park. 6721, approved settlement agreement and release of claims, Allstate Property and Casualty Insurance Company. Consent resolutions being introduced. 6724, 725, 726, and 727 are determining appropriations to Lad People Sports and Entertainment Complex, People United to Advance a Dream, Center for the Living Arts, and Japanese Garden Foundation serve a public purpose and approve payment. 27737 requires security payment of $16,170 from District 1 candidate Shameen Fortune Thompson for a recount of votes for District 1.
How does that work exactly? How does this work for this candidate or former whatever? How does that work with a security bond? Is a certain amount of capital towards that?
Yes, ma'am. So under the law, we are required, the council, which is the canvassing authority, that's who the appeal, the petition for recount was submitted to. The council has to then determine an amount of security to cover the cost for the recount. So Ms. Lambert spent probably 2 days figuring up all these costs, and that's what the total came out to, was the 16,170.
And if she succeeds, it's refunded? Or-
If it alters the result of the election, then she would get a refund and the city would be responsible for the cost. And also in the resolution, if the costs wind up being more or less, she'll either have to pay more or she would get a refund in that case if there was a lesser amount.
You finished, Ms. Rich? Are you finished, Ms. Rich?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Williams?
This is just District 1. The count, no other votes, only District 1. Is that correct statement?
For the most part, the absentee ballots are not separated by district, so those all have to be run through together, but the computer guy can program the counter to ignore other districts and the mayor race when those are being counted.
So it's just going to look at city council in those precincts that were designated for District 1.
Five precincts, and they have to hand put the counters.
Okay.
Any other council members?
Well, I have another question.
Ms. Rich?
If we proceed and she decides not, she's not obligated, obviously, because it wouldn't proceed unless she produces the bond.
Until she provides the security, nothing's gonna happen. And I guess y'all should be aware also that she is unhappy with the cost estimate that has been created.
But it's a true cost based on what the clerk,
They spent a lot of time figuring it out.
Any other council member? Ms. Merchant?
03738, appoint Catherine Pierce to the Mobile Library Board. Resolutions being introduced for the first time. 08728, approve purchase order to Friedrich Custom Manufacturing to repair 485 street barricades for the Traffic Engineering Department, $16,465.75. 08729, approve purchase order to CDW Government for 550 one-year Microsoft Office software subscriptions, $42,856. 08730, approve purchase order to Federal Resources Supply for portable EOD X-ray system for Mobile Police Department, $69,663.60. 08731, approve purchase order to Temple Inc. for pedestrian signal central control units and signal push-button stations for the electrical department, $26,404. 08732, approve purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for breathing apparatus, rechargeable batteries, charging stations, and accessories, $120,124.80. 08733, approve purchase order to UJ Chevrolet for two 2022 Chevrolet Traverse SUVs for the motor pool, $58,223. 09734, adopt the 2021-2022 General Fund, Capital Improvements Fund, and Convention Center Fund budgets. 21735, approve contract with Fuse Kitchen for Azalea City Golf Course food concession services.
if I could just talk about that a second. The chairman of that board is a representative from District 6 for the Azalea City Golf Course. And he did request that I at least entertain this idea that we vote on this today if possible, because it takes a while for them to get their licensure and everything to be up and running. So it's the choice of the council, and I told him I would certainly offer that suggestion on his behalf. So if anybody wants to see that read out of order, we would appreciate it.
Council?
My representative also contacted me concerning this, and as I ask the administration all the time, and it's worked fairly well, I think, what's the downside? What's the urgency? Why does it have to be done today? And what is 7 days going to make a difference? We're right now in a major discussion over millions and millions probably with regard to another contract. Kind of, does it need to go right now? And this being
It's not a cost to the city per se. It's an entity that will return some capital back, but
Yeah.
at the same time, they have to get a lot of things in order, and I think the old one is done, so they are just wanting that, less time, but all I did was say I would offer it.
and I
did
mean,
not have a
I'm not
problem
arguing with you,
it.
Bess. I'm
Yeah.
making the point I've made for
Yeah,
15 years now, in that unless we can tell our community, our city, that this is absolutely urgent, and that there is something detrimental going to happen in the next 7 days.
if Shonda maybe as Parks and Recreation, she might have better insight.
Thank you. Good morning. So the issue is transition. It's going to be important about timing to get the current out and get the other one in, to get everything set up, to get, the license that the person needs. So 7 days means a lot because it has to be turned over by October 1st. And so we're actually behind right now with the timing of transition.
That's not the citizenry's fault. It's not the council's fault that we're behind. Again, we look at these contracts, and what we never want to appear to do is to be moving things through without absolute. I mean, there's still several weeks here to go, and who's to say that we can't, in the same authority, say you can still cook for another week, or you can come on in. Let's streamline her business license process. Let's walk her through it. As soon as we approve this, tell her to be down here Tuesday morning next week. And every department gets ready
and lined up, ready for her to be there, if it is that urgent. And I would say that you're going to achieve the objective in the same amount of time, if not less.
But you're going to stress departments that have
Oh, we're not going to stress
lots
any
of
departments
things
on one
going
business
on.
license, I don't
If
think,
if
no.
we could just be in that
Okay.
loop to
Thank you.
allow that extra time period. I mean, not really.
Ms. Merchant?
47736, assent to the vacation of an alley in Hillwood Park. Announcements.
We had scheduled a UDC committee meeting for this afternoon. That will be postponed to a later time. Is there any other announcement from the council?
I have a proclamation that I'll be given from my seat today for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Any other announcement from the council? Administration?
Yeah, Vice President, based on the conversation y'all were having about Thompson Engineering and Tetra Tech, Councilman Williams' point, is it y'all's desire that we develop a resolution authorizing the mayor to extend the contract until this issue is resolved, and we can bring that as a consent resolution to be added on to the 10:30 meeting?
Mr. Vice President?
Mr. Williams?
Rather than authorizing the mayor to continue, can we make a motion that's more specific that it will continue? Or do we always authorize? Here's what I don't want to happen in the verge of all of this that's going on, that for whatever reason, the authorization doesn't take place. And that and then we end up with a so-called gap. Let's find out where we really stand. Because, I mean, Colonel DeLapp said we had a continuation clause in place.
We do not.
No.
We
they
do
said
not.
no, it's over.
And we don't have a severability clause like the new one that says that this agreement shall continue in force in effect unless the particular cause, term, or condition held to be illegal or void renders the balance of this agreement impossible to perform. I mean, that to me, I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like you can keep on working until we put something else in place that it's legally binding. I've asked for the new contract, and I didn't think I was going to have to read it myself today, but we're working on the fly.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Do you mind if our attorney contact Mr. Woods during,
Yep.
between meetings, and let our attorney come back to us before meeting?
Certainly wouldn't hurt to have that resolution in place and
Mr.
ready to go.
Mr. Vice President.
We can't make it by motion.
Mr. Vice President,
Mr. Days?
I think this issue is important enough to take a belt and suspenders approach. And we need to make absolutely clear we're covered. So I would welcome the resolution that Director Barber has suggested, so that when we get in here at 10:30, we have that option also.
Okay, we'll have it prepared.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Audrey, if you can do it between meetings, if that's necessary, we'll go further. Okay. Anything else from the council and administration? If not, we see each other at